which I thought would be controversial, and thinking that it might offend some of my friends, which are in fact foreigners. And fortunately for me, they didn't get offended. But in the comment section of the video, there were some comments that I want to address a little bit, which were very derogatory to foreigners, and I absolutely do not agree with these derogatory terms, which I myself will not say or repeat. So in that video, I had few people, so I want to address the South Africans who were asking me, why do I have foreign friends and where am I meeting foreigners? And some of them obviously were saying that I'm like a white person who mentions that, oh, I have black friends and therefore that can't make me racist. And there was basically they were saying that I'm mentioning that I have foreigners as friends and therefore I can't be xenophobic. So firstly, let me discuss why I have mostly foreign friends. Birds of the same feather flock together. And in my case, I am a self-employed person. I hustle. And most of the people that I know that are self-employed and are hustling are, unfortunately for South Africa, mostly foreigners. And I think many of them it's because they don't have a choice. But for me, it's because this is the path that I've chosen. And most of the people that I will meet that are entrepreneurs will be foreign nationals. And basically that's really the main reason. And obviously as I meet these people through my hustling, I start becoming friends with a lot of them. And some of them, they've become very close friends. And you know, unfortunately for many South African people, especially if you are from the township, you know less self-employed South Africans than you do foreign self-employed people here in South Africa. And unfortunately, this is a problem that is continuing, and I think it's going to continue even further. But my ambition doesn't really allow me to make friends with people that are not on the same path as I am. And most of the people who are on the same path as I am are foreign nationals, mostly legal foreigners. Legal foreigners. So there were people who were saying that I'm talking about criminals, and it seems that just like any other South African, I focus mostly on black criminals, and black criminals who are foreigners in South Africa will obviously most likely be from Africa. I was called out for forgetting to mention that there are, not really forgetting because it was intentional, I was called out for not mentioning other types of foreigners, which are people from Europe, Asia, and outside of Africa. Although I did a little bit, maybe people just didn't watch all the way. Look, there's many kinds of criminals, and they will come from all walks of life, all backgrounds. If I am calling out South African criminals, I'm going to be unapologetic about doing it because I am directly affected and other people are also directly affected. And as a black person, I am mostly a victim of crime from black people. So if I'm going to call out criminals, I'm going to call out mostly black people because that's whom affects me the most. Okay, there can be other criminals like white criminals who are in mafias or something of that sort. But if I don't get to experience them on a day-to-day basis, I may not remember or specifically focus on them because these are not the people that are specifically affecting me in my daily life. And if I'm going to call out foreign criminals, forget about me being apologetic about it. How's it, Jeremy? I'm good, how are you? I'm not going to be apologetic about calling out criminals, okay? If you have a problem with me calling out foreign criminals, and because you are a foreigner who's not a criminal, do keep in mind that I do mention the fact that there are legal immigrants here in South Africa. These legal immigrants cannot easily be criminals because it is very easy to identify them. It is very easy for them to be found, and therefore them being criminals will actually put their citizenship, well, not citizenship, but their status as immigrants in the country at risk. So they're not going to be criminals, right? Okay, now we have that figured out, we have that covered. If I am calling out foreign nationals who are criminals and I'm directly affected by black foreign nationals, I am going to talk about them. Don't tell me about, well, there's Greeks, well, there's Italians, there's Chinese. I don't experience them. And it's not my fault that I don't experience them because I stay in a black community. Most of the people in the black community are also going to be other black people. So you calling me out saying that I forget to mention other people, or South Africans like to focus on a specific group of people. It's also not my fault that they've built that reputation for themselves. Here in South Africa, if you go to, let's say, Hillbrow or Joburg CBD, most of the criminals that you may encounter are going to be Zimbabweans, and they are very violent. Other Zimbabweans know that the Zimbabwean criminals are very violent and they shoot to kill. So if I'm calling out Zimbabwean criminals and you are a Zimbabwean who's not a criminal, it doesn't mean I'm directly attacking you. If you feel offended by me calling out these people, there is a problem about you being offended. It's the same thing as, you know, when women discuss the fact that men are abusive to them, men are violent, GBV and all those kinds of things. And I come in and defend myself and say, no, you guys are wrong. Don't call out men. Like, it's not men that do this. Well, of course it is men that are abusing women, right? And if it's men that are abusing women, most of the time you will see that there are some who are radical in a sense that they will say that it's all men that are abusive to women. And that, of course, is wrong. But for the most part, they're not saying all men are violent to women. Therefore, if I'm a man and say, no, don't call out men, I'm being wrong, because I know that I don't abuse women, so I do understand that they're not talking about me. So back to Zimbabwean criminals. If I'm calling out Zimbabwean criminals and you're not a criminal, you have no reason to be offended. What's up, Gary? If you are a Nigerian who's not a drug dealer, and I know mostly Nigerian drug dealers, it doesn't mean that I am calling you out. And you know, to also discuss the point of Nigerians being mostly criminals. You live next door to me. Oh, hello Lexi. Gupi, where do you live? A lot of West Africans sound Nigerian. So sometimes we do get it wrong by saying it's just Nigerians. It could be somebody from Ghana, it could be somebody from Gambia, West Africa. They have a similar accent. Okay, and unfortunately, people are ignorant. They don't know that West Africans sound similar as much as Southern Africans sound similar. If you hear a Zambian person speaking English, you would think that they are from KZN. You know, these are just accents. So the ignorance, I understand it. But listen, I'm almost done with this live. I am not afraid of calling out criminals. If they are foreigners, I am going to call them out. I am not afraid of calling out illegal immigrants, because illegal immigrants affect me. They affect you also as a foreigner, because if an illegal immigrant is a criminal, they rob me, a South African, they rob you, their fellow countrymen. And me as a South African, if unfortunately I'm also ignorant, I will say that it's you and your people. And not necessarily that I'm that type of person, but many people are that type of person. So it is incumbent upon everyone to actually mention who's doing right, who's doing wrong. If I am Nigerian and I see other Nigerians selling drugs, you talk about it. You talk about it. Because you can't come into my yard and do wrong things and expect me to say nothing. And 10 of you can, I've said this in another video, 10 of you can come into my yard, and if I'm calling out 2 of these people that are doing wrong and they are from the same yard as you, you can't stop me from calling out these other 2 who are doing wrong. And this is where I was talking about the fact that I used to want to vote for Patriotic Alliance by Gaten Mackenzie, but I actually didn't, because it sounded to me at that time that this Mabahambe thing is about them calling out all foreigners and wanting all of them to go. And I saw in the comments of some South Africans saying, yeah, no, they should all go. Bullshit. Cat Mole. Yeah, no, they don't call each other out. They don't call each other out because if they call each other out, it is as though they are selling out. And people are afraid of being called a sellout. And unfortunately, this just doesn't happen with foreigners. It also happens with South Africans. There are so many South African criminals. And here's the reason why there's so many South African criminals. They are in South Africa. And if they decide to be criminals, there's obviously more South African criminals, okay, because they are in their country. But if we are going to tackle the issue of crime in South Africa, if we talk about South African criminals, we do it unapologetically. And if we talk about criminals that are not from South Africa, we are going to do it unapologetically. I don't care if you have a problem with me or with people doing that. I'm not going to explain myself. I'm not going to be apologetic about it. And many people have said to me on my WhatsApp, Tepo, your YouTube channel is supposed to be about business and everything. Why are you focusing on these kinds of topics? Because they affect me. These things affect me. If someone who is a foreigner or someone who is a South African gets mugged and they lose their possessions, they are unfortunately unable to spend on me. I'm being selfish about this. They are unable to spend on me, a South African who is trying to hustle, because they have to again spend on things they've lost through crime. I'm affected. Doesn't matter who the criminal was. My brother, the worst of all South Africans behave well when they visit other countries. Why can they not do the same here and respect our country? I have no idea. I have no idea why they can't do that. I can blame our government, I can blame our immigration law, and I can also blame our law enforcement, because it makes people very comfortable with being criminals. It makes people very confident with the fact that they can go to prison and they can come back. And when they go to prison, taxpayers are going to feed them, they're going to bathe them, they're going to shelter them with taxpayers' money. This is why you see them having phones in prison saying, we are living a nice life here. We are living a very comfortable life. So if the law here is not very strict to South African criminals first, and another criminal comes in and says, oh, it's that simple. Oh, it's that easy to be criminal in your country. I'm going to do it because the consequences are not so dire. Okay? There are more South African crimes in SA. Crime is a crime, yes. Yeah, crime has no nationality. There's a commenter who mentioned this on the previous video. Crime has no nationality, and any given country will have criminals of its native people. But again, those natives are being punished, and if those natives are being punished, everyone else who comes in to be a criminal has to be punished. And this is where South Africa has to do a better job in punishing criminals. We have a problem of not punishing them. And I think this is where the changes need to happen, and not only have to happen through law enforcement. I think us as citizens have to somehow lobby with the law enforcement to be a bit more strict. And each punishment has to match the kind of crime the person does. If you're going to do fraud, okay, go to prison. If you're going to go to prison, let's say maybe 5-7 years, to teach you don't do it again, although some people come back and do it again. But the prison also has to be better to make sure that these people do not come back as hardened criminals. If you are going to be a murderer, the punishment has to match your crime. Unfortunately, if you are going to be a rapist, hey, go to YouTube. If you're going to be a rapist, you can't get raped in prison. You shouldn't be. But there should be a punishment that is harsh enough to ensure that you are rehabilitated, or you're just not rehabilitated, but ensures that you are so afraid of repeating the deed again that you won't do it, because you know how dire the consequences are if you go to prison. So yeah, that's the gist of this video. I made it in live because my phone didn't have space to shoot a video. Thank you, Kat Molle, for liking it. You're the only one. I salute you. And yeah, if you're watching this in the replay, let's have a conversation. Let me know what you think. I will see you in the next one. Salute. Now, how do I end this? Okay, there's an X here. Okay.